we're going to take the derivative of 1 plus cosine x over sine x. This does not require the chain rule because we do not have a composition of functions, but it does require the quotient rule, and we're going to have to do some fancy algebra as well, and even probably simplify trigonometric simplification at the end. So first of all, it's low d high, so low is sine x. The derivative of the high, that's this, that's just negative sine x, because remember the derivative of 1 is 0, minus high, which is 1 plus cosine x, d low, the derivative of the low is negative cosine x. I'm sorry, that's not true. The derivative of the low is just cosine x, all over low squared. Now, first of all, notice that when I square the low, I'm writing the 2 not next to the x, because technically, sine, if you write it that way, you're technically saying sine of x squared, which isn't what you mean to say. You mean to say sine of x quantity squared, which can also be written as sine squared of x. You put the squared next to the sine. That's the convention that mathematicians use, okay? So just to clear that up, because that's part of the problem that a lot of people have doing this, is when they try to simplify it, they get very confused with what they're doing. So let's go ahead and simplify what's on the top there. That's going to be negative sine squared x. See how I did that again? Now we're going to take this cosine and we're going to make it a negative cosine. Take that negative out front, and now let's distribute it in so that we don't have to worry about that negative afterwards. So I'm distributing in now a negative cosine x. So that's going to give me minus cosine x, because 1 times negative cosine x is negative cosine x, minus cosine squared x, all over sine squared x. Now we're not done, because you'll notice that I've got 2 things there that could be simplified. If you remember the Pythagorean, the famous trig Pythagorean identity, which says that the cosine or sine squared x plus cosine squared x equals 1. That's like one of the most important things to remember, or to know from trig identities. So I'm going to rewrite this as negative sine squared x plus cosine squared x. See how I kind of moved them together and factored out a negative 1, minus cosine of x, all over sine squared of x. And this equals negative 1, because that's just 1, minus cosine of x, all over sine squared of x. And that is your derivative, much cleaner and simpler looking than what I had previously.